Across the galaxy, civilizations had risen and fallen under the shadow of the Zephyrian Empire for over 3 millennia. Emperor Vex Thar had conquered worlds with populations numbering in the trillions, enslaved entire species, and turned star systems into nothing more than resource extraction zones. His fleet of 10,000 warships had never known defeat. But the Emperor had made one critical error in his long reign of terror. He had underestimated a small blue planet orbiting an unremarkable yellow star in the Outer Rim territories. A world called Earth, inhabited by a species that called themselves humans. The galaxy would never be the same again. What happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? The Zephyrian Empire was about to find out that humanity doesn't just fight back. They redefine what it means to wage war. This is the story of how Earth showed the universe what humans are truly capable of when their backs are against the wall and their freedom is threatened. Welcome to humanity's finest hour. The massive crystalline throne room of the Zephyrian flagship Dominion's Edge stretched for nearly a kilometer, its walls adorned with the preserved remains of conquered species and the banners of fallen civilizations. Emperor Vex Thar sat upon his throne carved from the compressed core of a dead star, his 4 arms resting casually on the armrests as he reviewed the latest intelligence reports from the Outer Rim territories. The Emperor's appearance was both magnificent and terrifying. Standing nearly 3 meters tall, his chitinous exoskeleton gleamed like polished obsidian in the throne room's artificial lighting. 2 primary arms ended in razor-sharp talons capable of crushing steel, while his secondary arms were more delicate, designed for precise manipulation of technology and weapons. His compound eyes, each the size of a human fist, processed information across multiple spectrums simultaneously. A crown of living metal circled his elongated skull, pulsing with the collective consciousness of his empire's neural network. Admiral Korthax. The Emperor's voice resonated through the chamber, a sound like grinding stone mixed with the hiss of escaping gas. Present your findings on the Sol system. Admiral Korthax, a veteran of over 200 planetary conquests, approached the throne with measured steps. His own species, the Draknari, had been among the first to fall to Zephyrian might nearly 2,000 years ago. Now, they served as the Empire's primary military commanders, their natural aggression channeled into conquest rather than rebellion. Your Imperial Majesty, Korthax began, his serpentine form coiling as he bowed. Our reconnaissance probes have completed their survey of the Sol system. The third planet, designated Earth by its inhabitants, shows promise as a resource world. The species that dominates it calls themselves humans. The Emperor's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Humans. Another bipedal mammalian species, I presume? How refreshingly unoriginal. Indeed, Your Majesty. However, there are some interesting characteristics worth noting. Vex Thar leaned forward slightly, his interest piqued. In his 3 millennia of conquest, very little could be considered true. The image showed Earth in stunning detail, its blue oceans, white clouds, and brown and green continents rotating slowly before them. The planet is remarkably diverse biologically. The humans have achieved a certain level of technological development, though nothing that should pose any threat to our forces. They have primitive space travel, nuclear weapons, and basic energy manipulation. How primitive? The Emperor asked, examining the display with his compound eyes. Their most advanced space vessels cannot exceed 1/10 the speed of light. Their weapons are chemical and nuclear-based, entirely kinetic in nature. They have no energy shields, no plasma weapons, no quantum manipulation capabilities. By our standards, they are perhaps 2,000 years behind our current technology level. The Emperor's laughter filled the throne room, a sound like breaking glass mixed with the roar of a volcano. 2,000 years? Admiral, the Servani were only 500 years behind us, and we conquered their home system in less than 6 hours. Yes, Your Majesty. However, there are some peculiarities about human behavior that our xenobiologists found notable. Such as, Korthax manipulated the display, showing various scenes of human conflict throughout their history. Humans appear to have an unusual relationship with warfare and adversity. Unlike most species who seek to minimize conflict and preserve their populations, humans seem to thrive when facing extinction-level threats. Their history is marked by constant warfare, yet each major conflict appears to accelerate their technological and social development rather than hinder it. The Emperor waved dismissively with one of his secondary arms. All species war among themselves before achieving spaceflight. It is the natural order. With respect, Your Majesty, humans appear to be different. When faced with overwhelming odds, they do not surrender or flee. They adapt, improvise, and continue fighting even when logic dictates defeat. Our psychological profiles suggest they possess an almost pathological refusal to accept defeat. Fascinating, the Emperor mused, though his tone suggested otherwise. And their current military capabilities? Approximately 2 billion armed individuals across their planet, divided into nearly 200 different political entities. Their weapons are effective against their own kind, but would be useless against our shielding technology. Their largest military forces number in the millions. Their most powerful weapons can destroy cities, but nothing approaching planetary-scale destruction. The Emperor stood, his massive frame casting long shadows across the throne room. Admiral, in my reign, I have conquered species with technology superior to these humans. I have crushed civilizations that span dozens of star systems. I have destroyed entire worlds whose populations numbered in the hundreds of billions. You speak of these humans as though they present some unique challenge. Your Majesty, I merely report what our analysts have observed. The humans have never faced an external threat to their species. All of their conflicts have been internal. We cannot predict with certainty how they will respond to invasion by a superior force. They will respond, as all species do, with fear, confusion, and ultimately, submission. The Emperor began pacing, his talons clicking against the crystalline floor. Admiral, how long since our last conquest? 17 years, Your Majesty. The Corvani system provided excellent mining opportunities, but their population was completely eliminated during the initial bombardment. Exactly. 17 years without proper conquest. My military grows restless. My supply worlds demand new resources, and my subjects need reminding of why they serve the Empire rather than rebel against it. The Emperor stopped pacing and fixed his compound gaze on Korthax. The Sol system will provide both entertainment and resources. Shall I prepare a standard conquest fleet, Your Majesty? Perhaps 50 dreadnoughts should be sufficient for a primitive world. The Emperor's mandibles clicked again, this time in irritation. Admiral, you disappoint me. After our conversation about these humans and their supposed unique qualities, you would treat them as just another primitive civilization. Korthax's confusion was evident in his body language. Your Majesty, I don't understand. If these humans are truly as stubborn and adaptive as your reports suggest, then perhaps they deserve a proper demonstration of imperial might. How many worlds have we conquered through simple, overwhelming force? Nearly all of them, Your Majesty. And how many of those conquests are remembered throughout the galaxy? How many serve as lasting examples of what happens to those who defy the Empire? Understanding dawned on the Admiral's reptilian features. You wish to make an example of Earth. Precisely. The Emperor returned to his throne, settling into it with the weight of absolute authority. I want every civilization in the galaxy to know what happened to the humans. I want their fate to be discussed in whispered conversations on every world, in every language for the next 1,000 years. What are your orders, Your Majesty? The Emperor's voice took on a ceremonial tone, one reserved for the most significant pronouncements of his reign. Assemble the Grand Armada. Every dreadnought, every battle cruiser, every destroyer in the Imperial fleet. Strip the garrison worlds if necessary. I want 10,000 warships assembled in the Sol system within 1 month. Korthax's shock was visible despite his best efforts to maintain military composure. Your Majesty, 10,000 ships to conquer a single primitive world? That force could conquer an entire galactic arm. Indeed it could. And when other species see that we deployed our entire military might against a single world of primitive mammals, they will understand that no resistance is possible, no matter how insignificant the target. The psychological impact will be worth more than a dozen conventional conquests. I will begin preparations immediately, Your Majesty. Excellent. And, Admiral, when we arrive at Earth, I want no quick orbital bombardment. No swift destruction. I want these humans to understand exactly who they are facing. Give them time to see our fleet, to comprehend their situation, and to despair. Let them send their primitive messages of surrender and pleas for mercy. Only then will we begin the systematic destruction of their civilization. And if they do not surrender, Your Majesty, the Emperor's laughter returned, echoing through the vast throne room. Then we will have the most entertaining conquest in Imperial history. Either way, the galaxy will remember what happened to the species that dared to exist in a system the Emperor desired. As Admiral Korthax departed to begin preparations for the largest military deployment in Imperial history, Emperor Vexthar remained on his throne, already imagining the fear in human eyes when they first witnessed the Grand Armada emerging from hyperspace. He had conquered thousands of worlds, enslaved hundreds of species, and ruled the galaxy for 3 millennia. But he had never faced humanity. The greatest military force in galactic history was about to discover that sometimes size and technology are not the only factors that determine victory. Sometimes the will to fight and the refusal to surrender can overcome any odds. The Emperor had just made the greatest tactical error in the history of the Zephyrian Empire. He had given humanity a common enemy. The Arecibo Deep Space Monitoring Station in Puerto Rico had been tracking unusual gravitational anomalies for 3 weeks. Dr. Sarah Chun, the facility's chief astrophysicist, had initially dismissed the readings as equipment malfunctions or interference from solar activity. But as similar reports began flooding in from observatories across the globe, the impossible became undeniable. Director Martinez, Sarah called across the observation floor, her voice tight with controlled panic. You need to see this immediately. Director Carlos Martinez hurried over to Sarah's workstation, coffee mug still in hand. He had been running the facility for 15 years and had never heard that particular tone in his lead scientist's voice. What are we looking at, Sarah? Hyperspace signatures. Massive ones. Sarah's fingers flew across her keyboard, bringing up a 3-dimensional display of the outer solar system. Whatever's coming out of hyperspace is doing it just beyond Pluto's orbit. The gravitational distortions are off the charts. Martinez nearly dropped his coffee. Hyperspace? Sarah, we don't even have a working theory for hyperspace travel, let alone the ability to detect it. That's what makes this so terrifying. Sarah highlighted a section of space where the readings were strongest. Based on the gravitational signatures, we're looking at thousands of massive objects. Each one appears to be approximately the size of a city. The implications hit Martinez like a physical blow. Contact NASA. Contact the Pentagon. Contact everyone, if this is what I think it is. Before he could finish the sentence, alarms began sounding throughout the facility. Every screen in the observation center simultaneously displayed the same image. A view from the Hubble Space Telescope showing space itself appearing to tear open like fabric. Through the tears, massive shapes began emerging, their hulls gleaming with an alien technology that made Earth's most advanced spacecraft look like Stone Age tools. Within 6 hours, the truth was undeniable. An alien fleet of unprecedented size had appeared in Earth's solar system. The ships were enormous, some stretching for dozens of kilometers in length, their designs following no aerodynamic principles because they had never been intended to operate within an atmosphere. Energy readings from the vessels indicated power sources that dwarfed Earth's entire electrical grid. The United Nations Security Council was called into emergency session as world leaders grappled with humanity's first contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. In New York, representatives from every major nation gathered in a meeting that would determine the future of human civilization. Secretary General Amanda Foster called the session to order, her usual diplomatic composure strained by the magnitude of the situation. Ladies and gentlemen, we are facing an unprecedented crisis. As of 0600 hours GMT, our astronomers have confirmed the presence of approximately 10,000 alien vessels in our solar system. Their technology appears to be centuries, possibly millennia, ahead of our own. The Chinese representative, Dr. Liu Wei, leaned forward in his seat. Secretary General, have we received any communication from these vessels? Any indication of their intentions? Not yet, Dr. Liu. However, our military analysts are unanimous in their assessment. This is not an exploration mission. The size and composition of the fleet indicates aggressive intent. Russian delegate Dmitry Volkov spoke next, his voice grim. If these beings intended to communicate, they would have done so by now. A force this large serves only one purpose: conquest. The American Secretary of Defense, General Patricia Hayes, activated a holographic display showing the alien formation. Our best estimates suggest each of those larger vessels could carry 1 million troops. We're potentially facing an invasion force numbering in the billions, equipped with technology we cannot even comprehend, let alone counter. What are you suggesting, General? Asked the British representative. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm stating facts. If these aliens are hostile, Earth cannot mount an effective defense. Our most powerful weapons would be ineffective against their shielding technology. Our fastest spacecraft would be helpless against their obvious speed advantage. Secretary General Foster raised her hand for silence. Before we discuss military options, let's consider diplomacy. Perhaps peaceful contact is still possible. General Hayes shook her head. Ma'am, with respect, you don't deploy 10,000 warships for peaceful contact. This is an invasion force. At that moment, every communication device in the United Nations building began broadcasting the same signal. Not just the official channels, but personal phones, emergency radios, even digital watches with communication capabilities. The signal was being transmitted simultaneously on every frequency, in every language spoken on Earth. A holographic image materialized in the center of the Security Council chamber, the terrifying visage of Emperor Vexthar himself. His compound eyes seemed to focus on each person individually, while his mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Inhabitants of the world you call Earth. The Emperor's voice resonated through advanced translation technology that somehow conveyed his meanings perfectly in each listener's native language. I am Vexthar, Emperor of the Zephyrian Empire, ruler of 10,000 worlds, conqueror of 1,000 species. The assembled delegates sat in stunned silence as humanity received its first communication from an alien intelligence. Your world has been selected for incorporation into my empire. Your species will serve as laborers in my mining operations, assuming you prove capable of useful work. Those of you who cannot work will be disposed of efficiently. Secretary General Foster found her voice first. This is Amanda Foster, Secretary General of the United Nations. We speak for all of Earth's peoples. We welcome contact with your civilization and hope we can find peaceful coexistence. The Emperor's laughter filled the chamber, a sound that seemed to chill the air itself. Peaceful coexistence? You misunderstand your situation entirely. I have conquered species far more advanced than yours. Civilizations that span star systems have fallen before my might. You are not negotiating partners. You are assets to be acquired. General Hayes stepped forward. What are your terms? Terms. The Emperor's compound eyes focused on her with predatory interest. How refreshing. A military mind that grasps reality. Very well. You have 72 hours to surrender unconditionally. Disarm your military forces, dissolve your governments, and prepare your populations for processing. Those who comply will be permitted to live as slaves. Those who resist will be eliminated. Dr. Liu Wei stood, his diplomatic training warring with his growing anger. And if we refuse, then I will demonstrate why my empire has remained unchallenged for 3 millennia. Your cities will burn. Your armies will be crushed. Your people will die in numbers that will make your historical wars seem like minor disagreements. But do not mistake this for negotiation. Whether you surrender or resist, Earth will belong to the Zephyrian Empire. The only question is how many of you will survive the process. The hologram flickered and vanished, leaving the Security Council in stunned silence. General Hayes was the first to speak. 72 hours to prepare for the most one-sided war in human history. But something unexpected happened in the hours that followed. Rather than panic or despair, a different emotion began spreading across Earth. The alien ultimatum had been broadcast globally, heard by every human being on the planet simultaneously. Instead of breaking humanity's spirit, it had awakened something primal and fierce. In Beijing, General Zhang Yu was already mobilizing China's 2 million-strong army. In Moscow, President Kozlov was ordering the activation of Russia's entire nuclear arsenal. In Washington, President Morrison was coordinating with NATO allies to establish a unified command structure. But the real response was happening at street level. In New York, construction workers were volunteering to build defensive fortifications. In Tokyo, engineers were working around the clock to weaponize civilian technology. In London, scientists were sharing classified research that had been kept secret for decades. Dr. Sarah Chun, now serving as Earth's chief scientific advisor on the alien threat, stood before a hastily assembled team of the planet's best minds at CERN. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 72 hours to accomplish what should take decades, bridging the technology gap between us and an empire that's had thousands of years to develop their weapons. It's impossible, said Dr. Rajesh Gupta from the Indian Space Research Organization. They're using energy sources we don't even understand. Then, we'll have to understand them fast, Sarah replied. Because impossible or not, it's our only choice. Around the world, a remarkable transformation was taking place. Humanity had always been divided by borders, languages, religions, and ideologies. But the Emperor's ultimatum had done something unprecedented. It had given the entire species a common enemy. In the Pentagon Situation Room, General Hayes was coordinating with military leaders from every major nation. We need to think differently about this. We can't match their technology or their numbers. But they're expecting us to fight like every other species they've conquered. What do you mean? Asked General Pierre Dubois of the French Armed Forces. They expect conventional resistance. Armies meeting armies, fleets meeting fleets. They expect us to fight their kind of war. Hayes pointed to the global map showing troop movements. But humans have never been conventional. We've always been the species that adapts, that improvises, that refuses to fight fair when survival is on the line. Russian Admiral Petrov nodded slowly. Asymmetric warfare. Guerrilla tactics on a global scale. Exactly. They want to conquer Earth? Then let's make sure conquering it is the easy part. Let's make holding it impossible. Meanwhile, in laboratories around the world, scientists were making breakthrough discoveries at an unprecedented pace. The alien ship's energy signatures were providing clues about technologies Earth had only theorized about. Dr. Chen's team at CERN had identified patterns in the alien communications that suggested their quantum computing systems operated on principles humans could potentially exploit. In Tel Aviv, Dr. Rachel Goldberg was leading a team reverse engineering alien shield technology from sensor readings. Their shields operate on rotating frequency modulation. If we can predict the rotation pattern, we might be able to find momentary weaknesses. In Mumbai, Dr. Irvin Sharma was analyzing the propulsion systems of the alien vessels. They're manipulating gravitational fields directly. The energy requirements should be enormous, which means they must have some kind of zero-point energy source. Across the globe, humanity was doing what it had always done when faced with extinction. It was adapting, learning, and preparing to fight with everything it had. The Emperor had expected fear and surrender. Instead, he had awakened something he had never encountered in 3 millennia of conquest. He had awakened human determination. The 72-hour countdown had begun, and Earth was preparing for war. As the 72-hour deadline approached its final hours, the Zephyrian Grand Armada began moving toward Earth. 10,000 warships, each one a masterpiece of destruction honed over millennia of conquest, advanced in perfect formation through the solar system. Their energy shields glowed with ominous light, their weapon systems charged and ready to demonstrate why the Zephyrian Empire had never faced defeat. Emperor Vexthar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Earth grow larger on the tactical displays. The planet appeared peaceful, almost defensively beautiful with its blue oceans and white clouds. Most conquered worlds had orbital defense platforms or fleet formations attempting to protect their home. Earth showed nothing but silence. Admiral Korthax, the Emperor called, his voice carrying satisfaction. It appears the humans have chosen wisdom over futility. No doubt their governments are preparing surrender broadcasts even now. Admiral Korthax studied his tactical displays with the wariness of a veteran military commander. Your Majesty, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from the planet's surface. Multiple nuclear reactors are operating at maximum capacity, and there appears to be significant electromagnetic activity around their major population centers. Desperate attempts to appear threatening, no doubt. Or perhaps they are preparing their infrastructure for imperial use. The Emperor's mandibles clicked in amusement. Either way, their silence confirms their surrender. But as the deadline expired with no communication from Earth, Admiral Korthax's concerns deepened. Your Majesty, standard doctrine suggests we should receive a formal surrender before beginning orbital operations. Indeed, open a channel to the planet. Once again, Emperor Vexthar's image was broadcast to every communication device on Earth. This time, however, the response was different. Instead of frightened world leaders, the transmission was answered by a single person, General Patricia Hayes, now serving as Earth's supreme military commander. Emperor Vexthar, General Hayes said, her voice calm despite the magnitude of the moment. This is General Patricia Hayes, speaking for the United Earth Defense Command. The Emperor leaned forward with interest. He had expected cowering diplomats or desperate pleas for mercy. Instead, he faced a military officer who showed no signs of fear or submission. General Hayes, I presume you are here to announce your unconditional surrender. Actually, no. I'm here to give you one final warning. Leave our solar system immediately or face the consequences. The Emperor's laughter echoed through both the flagship's bridge and the communication centers across Earth. General, perhaps you fail to understand your situation. You face 10,000 warships with technology centuries beyond your own. What possible consequences could you threaten? General Hayes smiled, an expression that somehow managed to be both polite and terrifying. Emperor, in your 3 millennia of conquest, you fought a lot of different species, but you've never fought humans. You're about to learn why that's significant. Enlighten me. Humans have a saying, if you're not cheating, you're not trying hard enough. We don't fight fair, Emperor. We don't fight by rules. And we absolutely refuse to give up, even when we should. Hayes paused, her smile widening. But you'll figure that out soon enough. Hayes out. The transmission ended, leaving the Emperor staring at a blank screen. For the first time in centuries, he was unsure how to interpret what he had just witnessed. In his experience, primitives facing overwhelming odds either surrendered immediately or made grand, futile gestures of defiance. This human had seemed almost amused. Admiral, begin standard orbital bombardment protocols. Target their major population centers first. Yes, Your Majesty. The Zephyrian fleet repositioned itself above Earth, weapon systems charging with energy that could glass entire continents. But as the first dreadnoughts prepared to fire, something unprecedented happened. Every nuclear power plant on Earth simultaneously overloaded. Dr. Sarah Chin's voice crackled over the tactical communications network from her position deep within NORAD's Cheyenne Mountain Complex. All stations, this is command. Operation Prometheus is active. Repeat, Operation Prometheus is active. Around the globe, nuclear reactors that had been modified over the past 72 hours began releasing their energy in a carefully controlled cascade. But instead of explosions, the energy was channeled through hastily constructed electromagnetic field generators based on reverse-engineered alien technology. The result was spectacular. A planet-wide electromagnetic pulse erupted from Earth, invisible to the naked eye, but devastating to electronic systems. The pulse had been precisely calculated based on the alien ship's shield frequencies, and humanity's best minds had worked around the clock to make it reality. The EMP struck the Zephyrian fleet like an invisible tsunami. Shields flickered and failed across thousands of vessels. Navigation systems crashed. Weapon systems went offline. Communication networks dissolved into static. What is happening? Emperor Vex Thar demanded as his flagship's lights dimmed and emergency systems activated. We're experiencing massive system failures across the fleet, Admiral Korthax reported, his own voice distorted by communication interference. Some kind of directed electromagnetic attack. Impossible energy levels. How? Their technology level is thousands of years behind ours. But the humans weren't finished. As the alien fleet struggled to restore their systems, Earth's real strategy began to unfold. From hidden bases around the world, thousands of missiles launched simultaneously. But these weren't ordinary nuclear weapons. During the 72-hour preparation period, human scientists had accomplished the impossible. They had weaponized their own technological limitations. Each missile carried a payload of human technology specifically designed to be incompatible with alien systems. Computer viruses written in binary code that alien quantum computers couldn't properly process. Primitive radio transmissions that overloaded sophisticated receivers designed for quantum communication. Physical projectiles that penetrated energy shields designed to stop plasma and particle beams. The missiles weren't meant to destroy the alien ships. They were meant to cripple them. Your Majesty, Admiral Korthax called out as his tactical displays lit up with thousands of incoming projectiles. The humans are launching some kind of primitive missile attack. Should I order defensive measures against primitive projectiles? Let our shields handle them. But the shield were still recovering from the electromagnetic pulse, cycling through frequency patterns as they attempted to re-establish stable coverage. The human missiles, guided by real-time intelligence from observers tracking the shield fluctuations, struck during the brief moments when each ship's defenses were vulnerable. The warheads didn't explode on impact. Instead, they released their payloads directly into the alien ship's systems. Computer viruses spread through quantum networks like wildfire. Communication jammers interfered with coordination between vessels. Physical debris clogged intake ports and sensor arrays. Within minutes, the most powerful fleet in galactic history was reduced to chaos. Ships collided as their navigation systems failed. Weapons fired randomly as their targeting computers crashed. The perfect formation dissolved into a scattered mob of technological juggernauts that could barely function. But humanity's most devastating surprise was yet to come. From concealed positions around the solar system, a new type of ship emerged. They were ugly, primitive-looking vessels cobbled together from space station components, mining equipment, and salvaged satellite technology. Each one was crewed by volunteers who understood they were embarking on one-way missions. These were humanity's Q ships, vessels that appeared harmless while hiding devastating weaponry. Captain Maria Vasquez commanded the converted asteroid mining ship Defiance, now equipped with nuclear charges powerful enough to crack moons. Her crew of miners, engineers, and retired military personnel had volunteered for what everyone understood was a suicide mission. Target acquired, her navigator called out as they approached a Zephyrian dreadnought that was listing helplessly its system still recovering from the viral attack. Range 5 kilometers and closing. Understood. All crew, this is the captain. It's been an honor serving with you. The Defiance accelerated directly toward the alien vessel, its hull groaning under the stress. The Dreadnought's crew, seeing what appeared to be a primitive mining ship on a collision course, attempted to maneuver away. But their engines were still operating at only 30% capacity, crippled by the virus attack. For Earth, Captain Vasquez whispered as she triggered the nuclear charges. The explosion vaporized both ships instantly, creating a miniature star that burned for several seconds before fading. But the psychological impact was far greater than the physical damage. Across the fleet, Zephyrian crews watched in disbelief as the primitive humans demonstrated their willingness to die in order to take even one alien ship with them. Similar scenes played out throughout the solar system as Q ships commanded by volunteers rammed alien vessels, detonated nuclear charges, and fought with a ferocity that defied military logic. Each attack followed the same pattern. Humans who should have been terrified were instead displaying a level of courage and determination that the Zephyrian Empire had never encountered. Report. Emperor Vex Thar demanded as explosions lit up space around them. We've lost 47 vessels, Your Majesty. Another 130 are operating at reduced capacity. The humans are using some kind of suicide attack strategy with modified civilian vessels. Suicide attacks? Against superior technology. Yes, Your Majesty. They appear to be completely willing to die if it means damaging our ships. For the first time in his 3 millennia reign, Emperor Vex Thar felt something approaching uncertainty. Every species he had conquered had valued survival above all else. They fought to live, surrendered to avoid death, and accepted slavery as preferable to extinction. These humans were different. They fought to kill, even if it meant dying in the process. Admiral, withdraw the fleet to minimum safe distance and establish a defensive perimeter. We need to analyze their tactics. Your Majesty, we're retreating from a primitive species. The Emperor's voice carried a coldness that made even his veteran admiral step back. We are not retreating, Admiral. We are learning. These humans have demonstrated capabilities our intelligence failed to identify. Before we proceed with conquest, we must understand their methods. As the Zephyrian fleet pulled back to regroup, General Hayes stood in NORAD's command center, watching the tactical display with grim satisfaction. Earth had lost 50 Q ships and their volunteer crews, but the first battle had achieved its objective. Status report, she called her staff. The alien fleet is maintaining position at 2 million kilometers. They've stopped their advance and appear to be regrouping. Casualties, 3,000 confirmed Kia. Mostly volunteer crews from the Q ship operations. Hayes nodded solemnly. 3,000 dead in the first hour of humanity's first interstellar war. But their sacrifice had accomplished something unprecedented. They had forced the galaxy's greatest military power to retreat. Dr. Chun, how long before they adapt to our EMP technology? Maybe hours, maybe days. Their technology is more advanced, but they've never had to deal with deliberate incompatibility attacks. We've essentially given their computers a virus their immune systems can't recognize. And the Q-ship strategy? Limited effectiveness going forward. Now that they know our intent, they'll maintain distance and use long-range weapons. General Hayes studied the display, showing the alien fleet's new defensive position. Then we moved to Phase 2. Dr. Chun, activate the Lazarus Protocol. Around the world, scientists began implementing humanity's most desperate gambit. If they couldn't match alien technology, they would have to change the rules of engagement entirely. The Emperor had experienced his first taste of human warfare. But the real surprises were just beginning. Earth was about to show the galaxy what happens when humanity stops playing defense and goes on the attack. The Zephyrian fleet had pulled back to what they considered a safe distance, but Emperor Vex Thar was learning that safe distance had a very different meaning when fighting humans. His intelligence officers worked frantically to analyze the alien tactics they had encountered, while his engineering crews struggled to purge the computer viruses that continued to spread through the fleet's quantum networks. Status report. The Emperor demanded from his throne, which had been relocated to the flagship's primary combat information center. Admiral Korthax's expression was grim as he presented his findings. Your Majesty, we've identified several disturbing patterns in human tactical doctrine. First, they appear to have analyzed our technology and deliberately designed countermeasures during the brief preparation period we gave them. Impossible. No species has ever reverse-engineered Imperial technology in 72 hours. Nevertheless, Your Majesty, the evidence is clear. Their electromagnetic pulse was specifically calibrated to our shield frequencies. Their computer viruses are written in a format that bypasses our quantum encryption, and their suicide attacks target our most critical system integration points. The Emperor's mandibles clicked in frustration. What are you suggesting, Admiral? I'm suggesting that these humans think differently than any species we've encountered. Most civilizations develop defensive strategies when facing superior force. The humans immediately shifted to offensive asymmetric warfare. They're primitives with crude weapons. What possible threat? The Admiral's urgent interrupt was unprecedented in Imperial protocol, but the situation itself was unprecedented. Your Majesty, we're detecting massive energy signatures from the planet's surface. Something is happening. On Earth, Dr. Sarah Chun stood in the primary control room of CERN, which had been converted into the coordination center for humanity's most ambitious project. Around her, scientists from every nation worked at stations connected to particle accelerators, fusion reactors, and quantum laboratories around the world. Lazarus Protocol is active, she announced. All stations report ready for full activation. General Hayes' voice crackled through the communication system from NORAD. Dr. Chun, you understand the risks of what you're about to attempt. General, we're facing extinction. The only risk that matters is failure. What the Emperor's forces didn't realize was that humanity had spent the previous 72 hours doing more than just preparing defensive measures. They had been building something that violated every known principle of physics and engineering a planet-wide weapon system. Dr. Chen's team had made a crucial discovery while analyzing the alien ship's energy signatures. The Zephyrian Empire's technology was based on quantum manipulation of fundamental forces, which required precise calibration and control. But humans had accidentally discovered something the aliens had overlooked in their technological advancement: quantum chaos theory. Initiating quantum cascade in 3, 2, 1 mark. Every particle accelerator on Earth fired simultaneously, creating a coordinated quantum field that encompassed the entire planet. But instead of the controlled, precise quantum manipulation that advanced civilizations used, humans had weaponized quantum uncertainty itself. The effect was immediate and devastating. Every piece of Zephyrian technology within 50 million kilometers began experiencing random quantum fluctuations. Shields failed unpredictably. Navigation systems provided random coordinates. Weapons systems fired at phantom targets generated by their own corrupted sensors. Report. Emperor Vexthar roared as his flagship systems began malfunctioning. Unknown energy field emanating from the planet, Your Majesty. It's causing system-wide quantum interference. Our technology is being affected by some kind of chaos field. Chaos field? That's impossible. Quantum fields must be precisely controlled, or they dissipate harmlessly. Yes, Your Majesty. That's what should be happening. But the humans appear to have weaponized quantum uncertainty itself. But humanity wasn't finished. While the alien fleet struggled with their malfunctioning technology, the second phase of the Lazarus Protocol began. From hidden bases on Earth's moon, Mars, and the asteroid belt, a new type of vessel emerged. These weren't the crude Q ships of the first engagement. During the 72-hour preparation period, human engineers have been working on something far more ambitious: ships designed from the ground up to exploit quantum uncertainty. Captain James Morrison commanded the UES Uncertainty, humanity's first quantum warfare vessel. The ship looked like nothing any civilization had ever built. Its hull was composed of materials that existed in multiple quantum states simultaneously, making it partially invisible to sensors designed to detect specific quantum signatures. Captain, his science officer reported, "We're inside the quantum chaos field. All ship systems are operating on probability matrices rather than fixed constants." Understood. Helm, set course for the alien flagship. Use quantum navigation. This was the revolutionary aspect of humanity's new strategy. While the aliens' technology was designed for precision and control, human ships operating within the chaos field used probability and uncertainty as navigational tools. They didn't need to know exactly where they were. They only needed to know where they might be. The uncertainty phased through space, its quantum state hull allowing it to exist in multiple positions simultaneously until observation collapsed its wave function at the target location. To the alien sensors, the ship appeared to teleport randomly through space, making it impossible to target with conventional weapons. Target acquired, the weapons officer announced. Quantum torpedoes armed and ready. Captain Morrison smiled grimly. Fire. The quantum torpedoes weren't explosive devices in any conventional sense. They were concentrated packets of quantum uncertainty that, when they made contact with the precisely calibrated alien technology, caused catastrophic system failures by introducing random variables into carefully controlled quantum processes. The Emperor's flagship shuddered as the torpedoes struck, their quantum payload spreading through the ship's systems like a virus of pure chaos. Control panels exploded as their quantum processors tried to calculate infinite probability matrices. Weapons systems fired randomly as their targeting computers received contradictory data from parallel quantum states. Damage report, the Emperor demanded. Multiple system failures throughout the ship, Your Majesty. The quantum torpedoes are causing our technology to malfunction by introducing random variables into our control systems. Random variables? Admiral, randomness can be compensated for with proper calculations. Not this kind of randomness, Your Majesty. The humans have somehow weaponized quantum mechanics itself. Our systems aren't just malfunctioning, they're existing in multiple contradictory states simultaneously. Across the Zephyrian fleet, similar attacks were taking place. Human quantum warfare vessels appeared and disappeared like ghosts, striking precisely when and where alien defenses were most vulnerable. The advanced technology that had made the Empire invincible was now working against them, their own quantum-based systems becoming conduits for the chaos field. But the true brilliance of humanity's strategy became apparent when the aliens attempted to fight back. When Zephyrian weapons fired at the human ships, the quantum uncertainty field caused their targeting systems to lock onto their own vessels instead. Energy beams meant for human ships struck Imperial dreadnoughts, causing massive damage to the fleet from its own firepower. Your Majesty, Admiral Korthax reported with barely concealed panic. We're causing more damage to ourselves than the humans are. Our weapon systems are being affected by the same quantum interference that's disrupting our other technology. Emperor Vex Thar watched his magnificent fleet tear itself apart as ships fired on each other due to corrupted targeting systems. His 3 millennia reign had never prepared him for warfare like this. Every principle of military strategy, every advantage of superior technology had been turned against him. But the humans had saved their greatest surprise for last. Dr. Rachel Goldberg, working from a secret facility beneath Tel Aviv, had spent the past hours developing humanity's ultimate weapon, not a device of destruction, but a weapon of communication. She had discovered that the quantum chaos field could be used to transmit messages directly to individual alien minds, bypassing all technology and speaking to consciousness itself. General Hayes, she called through the secure communication link, psychological operations protocol is ready for implementation. Explain the plan, Dr. Goldberg. We're going to do something no species has ever done to the Zephyrian Empire. We're going to talk to their soldiers individually, bypassing their command structure entirely. The quantum field that had been causing technological chaos throughout the alien fleet suddenly began carrying something new. Human voices speaking directly to alien minds. But these weren't surrender negotiations or pleas for mercy. There was something the Empire had never encountered: recruitment messages. Lieutenant Krextor of the Zephyrian 3rd Assault Fleet found his consciousness suddenly, filled with a human voice speaking in his native language, despite the impossibility of the situation. "Greetings, Lieutenant," the voice said calmly. "This is Colonel Sarah Martinez of the United Earth Defense Command. I'd like to speak with you about your empire." Krextor looked around the bridge of his damaged vessel in confusion. Every other crew member appeared to be having similar experiences, speaking to empty air as human voices addressed them individually. "You've been fighting for an empire that conquered your homeworld 2,000 years ago," the human voice continued. "Your species, the Draknari, once ruled 17 star systems. Now you serve the very beings who enslaved your people." This was information that was theoretically classified, but humans had spent the past 72 hours analyzing every communication they had intercepted from the alien fleet. They had identified dozens of conquered species serving in the Imperial military and had crafted specific messages for each one. "How do you know this?" Krextor whispered. "Because we know what it's like to fight for freedom. Earth has never been conquered because humans refuse to accept defeat. We understand that some things are worth dying for. The question is, do you?" Similar conversations were taking place throughout the fleet as human psychological operations specialists spoke directly to individual alien soldiers. They weren't asking them to surrender. They were asking them to remember why they had originally fought against the Empire before being conquered. "What are you suggesting?" Krextor asked. "I'm suggesting that this is your chance. Your Empire's technology is failing. Their command structure is in chaos. This is the moment when oppressed peoples throughout the galaxy can finally fight back." Emperor Vex Thar realized what was happening when his own crew members began responding to voices only they could hear. "Admiral, we must withdraw immediately. The humans are using some kind of psychological warfare against our troops. Your Majesty, withdrawal may not be possible. The quantum field is affecting our hyperdrive systems. We may be trapped in this system." Trapped? The Zephyrian Empire does not become trapped by primitives. But even as the Emperor spoke, something unprecedented was happening throughout his fleet. Soldiers from dozens of conquered species were remembering their histories, their cultures, their reasons for resistance. The quantum communication system had done more than bypass Imperial security. It had bypassed Imperial indoctrination. On 17 different ships, mutinies began simultaneously. Lieutenant Krextor drew his weapon and turned toward his commanding officer. "For the Draknari Republic." The sound of plasma fire erupted across the bridge as 2 millennia of suppressed rebellion finally exploded into action. Throughout the fleet, conquered species turned their weapons on their Imperial overlords, fighting for something they had almost forgotten: the possibility of freedom. General Hayes watched the tactical display as energy signatures throughout the alien fleet began showing internal weapons fire. "Dr. Goldberg, your psychological operations appear to be effective." "General, we've just done something that may change the balance of power in the galaxy. We've reminded enslaved species that rebellion is possible. And we've shown them that the Zephyrian Empire can be defeated." Emperor Vexthar's magnificent Grand Armada, the greatest military force in galactic history, was tearing itself apart from within while quantum chaos destroyed it from without. For the first time in 3 millennia, the Emperor faced the possibility of defeat. But humanity wasn't finished. They had one more lesson to teach the galaxy about what happens when humans decide to go to war. The final phase was about to begin, and it would determine not just Earth's fate, but the future of freedom throughout the stars. The Zephyrian Grand Armada was in complete disarray. Half the fleet was experiencing internal rebellions as conquered species remembered their suppressed desire for freedom. The other half was struggling with technological failures as quantum chaos continued to corrupt their advanced systems. Emperor Vexthar's perfect formation had become a scattered mob of crippled vessels fighting both humans and each other. But humanity was about to demonstrate that their greatest weapon wasn't technology or tactics. It was their absolute refusal to accept the concept of impossible odds. General Hayes stood in NORAD's command center, watching real-time displays of the carnage in space above Earth. The alien fleet was damaged, but still numbered in the thousands. Even in their crippled state, they possessed enough firepower to devastate Earth's surface. The battle was far from over. Dr. Chen, Hayes called to the CERN facility. What's the status on the final protocol? Dr. Sarah Chen's voice carried both exhaustion and determination. General, I need to be clear about what you're asking. The final protocol isn't a weapon in any conventional sense. It's a complete restructuring of local space-time. If we activate it, there's no guarantee Earth itself will survive. Explain. We've discovered that the quantum chaos field can be amplified exponentially by creating a resonance cascade with Earth's magnetic field. The result will be a space-time disruption that extends throughout the entire solar system. General Hayes understood the implications immediately. You're talking about weaponizing physics itself. That's exactly what I'm talking about. But, General, this isn't just about defeating the alien fleet. This is about sending a message to every civilization in the galaxy. If humanity activates the final protocol, we're declaring that we would rather destroy ourselves and take our enemies with us than accept conquest. How long do we have to decide? Before Dr. Chen could answer, Admiral Korthax's voice crackled through captured Imperial communication channels. The quantum field had made encryption impossible, allowing humans to monitor alien communications in real time. Your Imperial Majesty, the Admiral reported to Emperor Vexthar, fleet cohesion is at 17%. We've lost over 3,000 vessels to internal rebellion and system failures. Recommend immediate withdrawal to Imperial space for fleet reorganization. The Emperor's response was immediate and furious. Withdrawal? I am Vexthar, conqueror of the galaxy. I do not retreat from primitives. Your Majesty, with respect, these humans are unlike any species we have encountered. They fight without regard for casualties, adapt to superior technology, and have turned our own forces against us. Tactical wisdom suggests tactical wisdom. The Emperor's laughter contained no humor, only rage. Admiral, prepare the Doomsday Protocol. If these humans refuse to surrender, then this entire system will serve as an example to the galaxy. General Hayes felt ice form in her stomach as she heard the alien communication. Dr. Chen, what's the Doomsday Protocol? Dr. Chen's voice was barely a whisper. Based on the energy readings we're detecting, I believe they're preparing to destabilize our sun. If they succeed, the resulting supernova would sterilize every planet in the solar system. Time frame, maybe an hour. General, they're going to commit genocide rather than accept defeat. Hayes closed her eyes, feeling the weight of humanity's future on her shoulders. When she opened them, her decision was made. Dr. Chen, initiate the final protocol. General, are you certain? This is irreversible. The Emperor made his choice. Now we make ours. If he wants to destroy the solar system, he'll have to do it on our terms. Throughout CERN's facility, scientists began the most dangerous experiment in human history. Every particle accelerator on Earth was reconfigured to create a quantum resonance cascade with the planet's magnetic field. The goal wasn't to destroy the alien fleet. It was to fundamentally alter the laws of physics within the solar system itself. The effect began as a subtle distortion in space-time near Earth's magnetic poles. But within minutes, the distortion spread outward at the speed of light, creating an expanding bubble of altered reality that engulfed the entire solar system. Inside the bubble, the fundamental constants of physics began to fluctuate randomly. The speed of light became variable. Gravity shifted between attractive and repulsive. Matter existed in quantum superposition on a macro scale. Emperor Vex Thar watched in horror as his flagship began to phase in and out of existence. What is happening? The humans have weaponized reality itself, Admiral Korthax replied, his voice distorted as the communication systems struggled to function in the altered physics. They've created a zone where the laws of physics are no longer constant. Impossible. No species has ever developed reality manipulation technology. Your Majesty, these humans don't appear to develop technology in the conventional sense. They improvise. They adapt. They use principles that more advanced civilizations consider too dangerous or unstable to weaponize. As the space-time distortion spread throughout the fleet, something extraordinary began to happen. The alien ships, designed to operate under stable physical laws, began to malfunction in ways that defied comprehension. Vessels that had existed for thousands of years suddenly found themselves existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Weapon systems fired projectiles that traveled backward through time. Energy shields created gravity wells that pulled their own ships into collapsed space. But the humans had prepared for this chaos. Their quantum warfare vessels, already designed to operate in uncertain environments, adapted to the shifting physics with relative ease. Ships that could exist in quantum superposition were naturally suited to reality where normal rules no longer applied. Captain Morrison aboard the U.S. Uncertainty watched as alien dreadnoughts flickered in and out of phase around him. Navigation. Plot intercept course with the Emperor's flagship. Use probability navigation. Sir, in this environment, probability navigation is just educated guessing. Then, educate your guesses, Lieutenant. We have work to do. The Uncertainty phased through the distorted space-time, following quantum probability paths that led directly to the Emperor's position. Other human vessels converged from all directions, moving through dimensions that shouldn't exist, firing weapons that operated on principles that violated causality. But the most significant effect of the final protocol wasn't military, it was psychological. Throughout the galaxy, civilizations that had been monitoring the battle between Earth and the Zephyrian Empire suddenly realized that a species had just demonstrated the willingness to alter reality itself rather than submit to conquest. On 1,000 worlds, beings that had accepted imperial rule for millennia began to understand that resistance was possible. If primitives from a single world could bring the Emperor's Grand Armada to its knees, what could unified rebellion across the galaxy accomplish? Emperor Vex found his consciousness filled with human voices as the quantum communication system reached him directly, bypassing every protection and speaking to his mind with crystal clarity. Emperor Vexthar. General Hayes' voice resonated in his thoughts. This is General Patricia Hayes. I believe we need to discuss terms. Terms? I am the Emperor. I do not negotiate. Emperor, look around you. Your fleet is destroyed. Your technology is useless. Your empire is watching its most powerful force defeated by a species you considered primitive. You can continue fighting and die here, or you can listen to what humanity has to say. For the first time in his 3 millennia reign, Emperor Vexthar felt fear. Not for his own life, but for the concept of empire itself. These humans had done something no conquered species had ever managed. They had proven that the empire could be defeated. What do you want? He whispered. We want you to understand something, Emperor. Humans don't just fight for our own freedom. We fight for the concept of freedom itself. Every species in your empire that wants to be free will help them. Every world that wants to govern itself will support them. Every being that refuses to kneel to tyranny will stand with them. You cannot free an entire galaxy. Watch us. As if to emphasize the point, reports began flooding in from across the Zephyrian Empire. On worlds that had been enslaved for thousands of years, populations were rising in rebellion. Imperial garrisons found themselves facing coordinated uprisings as species that had been conquered millennia ago remembered what it meant to fight for freedom. The quantum communication system that humans had used against the Imperial fleet was broadcasting throughout the galaxy, carrying messages of hope and tactical information to anyone willing to fight for their independence. Humanity hadn't just defeated the Emperor's Grand Armada. They had sparked a galactic revolution. Your Majesty, Admiral Korthax reported, his voice filled with despair. We're receiving reports of uprisings on over 300 Imperial worlds. The humans' quantum communication is coordinating rebellions across the entire galaxy. Emperor Vexthar slumped on his throne as the reality of his situation became clear. His empire, built over 3 millennia of conquest, was collapsing as species throughout the galaxy chose freedom over slavery. General Hayes, he said, his voice carrying the weight of defeat. What are your terms? Simple, Emperor. Withdraw all Imperial forces from every conquered world. Allow every species to govern themselves. Dismantle your empire and face justice for 3,000 years of genocide and slavery. And if I refuse, then you'll face the same choice you gave Earth 72 hours ago. Surrender or be destroyed. But understand this. If you choose to continue fighting, you won't just be fighting humanity. You'll be fighting every free being in the galaxy. As if to underscore the point, the tactical displays began showing new ships entering the solar system. Vessels from dozens of different species, all flying the same symbol. A blue and green world surrounded by stars, representing Earth and the freedom it had sparked throughout the galaxy. The Regelian Republic had sent their entire fleet. The Andromedan Alliance had dispatched their most advanced warships. Even species that had been enemies for centuries were united in their determination to end the Zephyrian Empire forever. Emperor Vexthar looked at the display, showing thousands of ships from freed worlds converging on Earth, not to attack the planet that had started the revolution, but to protect it. Humanity had accomplished in days what he had thought impossible. They had united the galaxy against tyranny. I accept your terms, the Emperor said, his voice barely audible. General Hayes' response carried no triumph, only grim satisfaction. Smart choice, Emperor, because humanity has one more thing you need to understand about us. What? When we make a promise, we keep it. And we've just promised the galaxy that no being will ever again have to kneel to an empire. We'll make sure that promise is kept, no matter what it costs us. The battle for Earth was over. The Zephyrian Empire, the greatest military power in galactic history, had been defeated by a species that refused to accept defeat. But more than that, humanity had sparked a revolution that would free countless worlds and reshape the balance of power throughout the galaxy. In the aftermath of the battle, as human ships worked alongside vessels from dozens of freed species to help crippled Imperial ships safely withdraw from the solar system, the galaxy began to understand what humanity was truly capable of. They weren't just capable of defending themselves. They were capable of defending everyone. They weren't just capable of refusing to surrender. They were capable of inspiring others to fight for their own freedom. Most importantly, they were capable of keeping their promises, no matter what the cost. The Emperor had tried to start a war of conquest. Instead, he had started a revolution of liberation. And at the center of it all was a small blue world whose inhabitants had just proven that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe isn't technology or superior numbers. It's the absolute refusal to give up. Earth had shown the galaxy what humanity was capable of, and the galaxy would never forget. The age of empire was ending. The age of freedom had begun, and it had started with a species that simply refused to kneel.